involved. Yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, man, that's my saying. Don't pick up the phone unless my agent says he's paying. Wake up in the morning in the AM, check my statement. Me and Drunk are on the phone, having money conversation. Never basic, so just face it, not complacent, so I chase it. If you like, then I'ma take it, and this flow is so amazing. If you ever knew all the pain that I've been through, girl, you would've had a clue. I was always gonna make it. I made.
All right. Hey, I really appreciate everybody dealing with me on this one tonight. I had some technical difficulties that I didn't think I was going to have. And then all of a sudden, I got it. So, welcome to the first live of 2024. And this one, I kind of wanted to open it up to a couple of things. One, I wanted to make sure that you and I had an opportunity to connect this year. And really what I mean by that is if you have a question or there's something on your mind that you really want to kind of get an answer to, and it was something that happened in the last 2 episodes, even if it was about coffee badging, if it was about, you name it, whatever it is, that you have a question about, this is that opportunity for us to connect and talk to each other and, have a great time, as well as connect. So that's really what this is about for me, is making sure you and I have a moment, an opportunity for us to connect and talk to each other. And so that way, we can get going here. And I do not know what's going on with my computer tonight, but it is okay. So I would say what we're going to get started with tonight is we're going to be talking about the 2024 trends and how to plan for it this year. What is it that we're going to get out of this year, or what is it that we're really going to see this year in the leadership realm as emerging trends or non-emerging trends, as things that we haven't really seen in the past that we know we're going to see for this year. So one thing is that we're going to see, and we talked about it a bit last year, is trust and psychological safety. Right? And what does trust and psychological safety look like? Well, right now, psychological safety is when you have the ability to speak up in a environment where you might not necessarily feel comfortable. So for example, let's say you're in a meeting, you're in a big boardroom, and there's a whole bunch of people there, and every time you open your mouth and every time you say something, you feel like you're just getting shot down. You feel like you're getting told, nope, this is not a good idea. This is not a good topic. I can't believe you brought this up. Nope. And it gets shot down. How many of you have actually been in environments like that? I would say everybody has, where people are afraid to speak up because if they speak up, then they're going to get shot down. And that's not okay. In this environment this year, we need to create environments where people feel safe to speak up, and we lower that threshold and that risk of on people, so that way they can say what they got to say and they can do what they need to do. So with that, that goes back into building trust. Trust is the foundation of everything that we do. If we don't have trust, then we don't have anything, right? So we need to make sure that we're establishing that trust up front with our teams, letting people know, hey, I'm here for you, and I know you're here for me. We have each other's back. There is no dumb ideas. There are no bad ideas, right? There may be some unthought out ideas and unthought through ideas, but we don't need to turn them away, because when we do that, we start to create this atmosphere for folks where they don't want to speak up. And people that don't speak up in meetings and people that don't contribute out of that climate and that culture that's created there, that creates a negative organization, and we don't need to be living in those environments or working in those environments either. So another area is human-centric leadership. And that really undertones everything that we've been talking about here tonight. What we need to focus on is how people are. And this is the human condition. We need to focus on what the human condition is and what people are. And that's really what it boils down to. We need to put people first, and a lot of people don't understand what that means when you put people first. It does not mean that you have to change your leadership style and a fact to make it so wishy-washy or watered down that you can't hold people accountable. That's not what putting people first means. Putting people first means that if people have kids and they're sick and they're like, hey, you know what? I need to telework today. My kids are sick. I don't have a babysitter. I don't have this. I need to be at home with them. Okay. Yeah, sure. Telework. No problem. Really? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Telework. No problem. You can't keep putting stress on the people and treating everybody like machines. People are not machines. That's not what, people are here for. People are here to, create a living so that way they can live with their families and do the fun things that they've been wanting to do with their families, but just haven't got around to doing yet because they're working, right? So we need to understand the emotional skills that link high performance teams and organizational success, so that way we can retain the right employees to make sure that we retain knowledge and skill and increase productivity with happier and healthier workers, especially with more mentally health workers, mentally positive and stable workers. And then also, with people who are like, hey, you know what? My boss cares about me. And so I know that when I show up to work, I'm going to give it everything that I have. So just keep that in mind. If we're not focusing really on those two things when it comes to the human domain, then we're going to start having issues, and you're going to start see people running for the hills, even if you do ask them to come back into the office and do adopt this work hybrid lifestyle. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that we need to make sure that we keep a really close eye on is navigating this economic and geopolitical challenges that we're going to face this year. It's inevitable, right? 2023, we left the year with the war in the Middle East, still war in Ukraine, war in Israel, war all around. We've got an election year this year, which, by the way, if you haven't registered to vote, please register to vote. Go out and vote. It is your constitutional right to do so. So please go execute that right. I don't care who you vote for. Just execute your right to vote if you have that right to vote. And so we need to make sure that even though we may have polarized views politically, that in the workplace it should not be that way. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean that it makes them the enemy. No matter what their viewpoint is, we all need to come to a sense of understanding in the workplace that we're all there to do a job and a function for the organization so the organization can make business so we can take home a paycheck. Bottom line. Politics really doesn't have any room in the workplace. And it was funny because I remember people used to tell me all the time, and when I say people, I mean leaders, people who are more senior than me, say, politics has nothing to do with our day-to-day lives. Politics has nothing to do with our job. But in certain jobs, it really does, because that depends on where you're going to go. What sector you're in, what laws are passed, really determine the outcome of your future for your sector. So if you're not engaged politically and looking at what those trends are going to be and seeing what's going to be coming down the pipe, then you're going to be setting your organization up for a disservice, right? And let's talk about economic challenges. We're going to be incorporating that this year. Not incorporating it. We're going to be seeing it. We've been dealing with it, since 2020. It's been on a downward trend, and it's gotten a little bit better. So there's a Gallup poll that kind of looked at the economic recovery here within the last year and a half, and we're on an upward trend. However, that upward trend is a little bit deceiving because that's called the deflation period, where prices are starting to go down. Well, the average user and the average consumer is going to go, wait a second, I may not be able to afford the 4 pairs of tires I need for my car this month. It's $500 or $800 for 4 tires. So I'm going to hold off to next month. Next month, he sees the price is reduced by $100. Oh, okay. So the price is going down. I still, I still need to wait out. Maybe it's going to go down to a lower price because I don't want to be suckered as a customer and buy them when they're too high when the price is going down. So if everybody is doing that and everyone's watching the price of goods and services go down, but they're waiting for it to be at the cheapest moment, and then they're going to act on it. Right now, people are only doing what they have to do and they must do in order for safety, security, and survivability of their families, unless they're like super well off. But majority of the people are like, you know what, I don't really need that. I'm not going to do it. Well, what happens with this is then the average person doesn't see that on the business side, the profit margins start to shrink because the organization's not doing as much service because people are holding off on that service. So then the business goes, you know what? We are going to have to see what happens. So that way we can, if we don't generate enough sales, we're going to have to let some people go. Because, the guy at the corporate level, he's not going to lose any money because he needs to maintain his status and quality of life. The guy on the front line who's closer to the customer doing the actual service, he's going to be the first one to go. So we need to take a look at these economic situations and start communicating to people ahead of time so that way they can plan accordingly. Because you know that as an organization, when we run into these parts and these pieces, people are inevitably going to lose jobs. Because corporations and businesses still need a profit margin. That's the only reason why they exist, is to make money, right? Money in is the only reason why these businesses and places exist. So we got to be open and honest in that communication with people. And that goes back to the psychological trust. That goes back to psychological safety and the trust that we set in place for people. So that way we have the right people in place so that people can plan accordingly. They don't feel like that they're getting duped by being told, well, if you just work super hard this one day, then we'll keep you around. If you just do this, then we'll make sure that we keep you around. It doesn't work that way. How it does work is, people doing what they should be doing. And then what's going to end up happening is, the right people are going to come along and you're going to see where you're at and they're going to be like, you know what, got it. We're going to make sure that everybody is doing what they need to do so that we can make sure that people don't get caught off guard. Because the worst thing, in my opinion, is to lay somebody off and they not know that it's coming. It's not even communicated that it could be coming. Because to me, that's the worst, for that. But that's just me on there. So I would also say, let me pull my notes here, that we need to adopt the remote and hybrid work models. I know a lot of businesses right now are pushing for the, go back to work. Everyone needs to go back to work. Everyone needs to, be in the office and in the workplace. I disagree with that. There are some businesses and organizations that, yes, absolutely. If you are a brick and mortar store and you're a salesman or you're a cashier, yeah, you have to be at work every single day. Otherwise, that business doesn't run. And eventually, if we start replacing more people with robots, then that also phases another thing out, and that's a whole different topic in itself. But other jobs, you can do remote. You can do hybrid. When we have to stop confusing office culture with being present in the workplace. Because how often, I remember before COVID, you would have these cubicle farms and everybody would be at their desk and they'd be hunkered down and they have like these huge high walls except for the entrance into the cubicle. And They would have all the pictures of their family, their friends, and funny posters and memes and sometimes inappropriate stuff, but it was still funny. They'd have them all up, and they never talked to the person on the other side of the cubicle until it was time to go home to the end of the day. And sometimes if somebody called an organization, it'd be really simple for them to just poke their head back out of their cubicle. Yo, Frank, you got an answer to this? I know you deal with this. You got an answer for this? Oh no, I don't have an answer for this. So it's kind of like, really, like how do we not have any answers for this? So it's very interesting on how we confuse culture and efficiency with being in the workplace, and those two don't really correlate. And in my opinion, what correlates is actual productivity and increased communication. And sometimes when you are decentralized in your leadership, you increase communication to make sure that you keep a pulse on actually what's going on. Because when we have that increase in communication and we have a pulse on what's going on, now we actually know what's going on because we're making an effort to communicate. And often we lose that when we go back to a brick and mortar building, because then we get into our own silos and our own kingdoms, and we're like, you know what? I don't want to be inundated with talking to people. I don't want to be bothered by Bob next door or Frank on the other side of the cubicle. And then how dare I ask them a question too if they're busy working and nugging away at their computers and pressing down buttons. So just something that we need to take a look at when we look at hybrid and remote work schedules this year. And a lot of people in the studies will tell you that especially for millennials and Gen Z, and that working age group right there, if a lot of them are moving and quitting and going on to other jobs to find more remote jobs, they would rather have a remote job that they can actually fit their lifestyle into their work versus something that they're going to have to adapt and change their whole lifestyle for the work. Does that make sense? So instead of adapting to work, they want the work to adapt to them. And there's got to be a healthy medium to that. There's got to be a healthy medium on how we support the individual. We support the individual or the organization and achieve our organizational goals. It's got to be somewhere in between, because that way we need to maintain and retain the best skills and workers on that. The other thing that's going to really be taking people by storm this year, and if you're not focusing on it, is artificial intelligence and digital literacy. So many people become scared of artificial intelligence, and they go, you know what, this is bad, this is not good, it's going to replace people, it's going to replace my job, it makes other people and other skills, lessened, because now anyone can do this, which is kind of true to a point. However, if you look at what true AI can do for you, if you look at the skill set that artificial intelligence can bring you, and you look at it as a tool, right? So oftentimes I view artificial intelligence as a gopher. I need you to go get X, Y, and Z for me, so I don't have to spend hours looking for it. And so it usually takes 20, 30 seconds, and I get what I need, and I can read everything that I need to read, and I can verify, and I can fact check, and I can do more research. But those who view AI as the lazy man's way to get to good, then those people are the ones who are going to end up failing at AI. Because at the end of the day, AI is a tool. It's as flawed as its creators who made it. It's not any better than anything else, right? So all humans are flawed, and the logic of this is all humans are flawed, so therefore anything we create is inherently flawed. No matter how good you try to make it, there's going to be a flaw in it. There's going to be a backdoor in it. And a good thing that my generation has done is looking for all the flaws in digital systems and hack it and figure out how to make it work to our favor. And that's the same thing with AI. What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? What are other people not doing that they should be doing that I can make this work better? And that's where AI comes in my opinion. It helps you do things faster and more efficiently. And if you're not using it, you're already behind. Because tons of businesses have been using AI for the last 5 or 6 years. It's just now starting to, pick up and go mainstream. But again, if you don't understand how to use it and you don't understand how to use it as a tool, then you're going to be falling behind. The other thing is digital literacy. And this one kind of took me by surprise. I would think by now most people are digitally literate. And I came back to the thought process of just because I can read English doesn't mean I can write it well. It's my native language, I can read, but it doesn't mean I can really write it. And it doesn't mean I could really express what I'm really trying to say efficiently in the written English language. And often that can translate exactly to digital literacy. Just because you can use a computer doesn't mean that you can express your ideas coherently and ethically online. Pardon me while I take a sip of my tea here. I'm getting a little parched. Right? And so that's what really digital literacy is. It's just because you can use a computer doesn't mean you know how to effectively communicate with it or through it. A lot of times you're just consuming stuff, right? You're consuming content. You're consuming data. You're not really using it to communicate. You're not using it to really mold and shape a narrative and push it the way that you should. And so that way, that's the reason why remote hybrid work schedules are failing right now, in my opinion, is because our digital literacy is horrible. And our human interaction and our human connectiveness also is horrible. And that needs to improve. And so that way, if we increase our human-centric leadership and we improve our digital literacy, then we can truly get to better remote hybrid work models. And I go back to my time that I have used a long time ago, which is I've always been remote and distant from my bosses. And a lot of times the people that work on my teams are also remote. So I've had to increase my communication with them, and I've also had to increase my human connectiveness with all those people to ensure that they understand that just because I'm distant in distance doesn't mean I'm distant in thought and action. And there's a big difference between the two of that. But then with the use of AI and our increase of digital literacy, we have to really take a look at the ethical use of AI and how we can really use it the right way and not use it to manipulate people, not use it to do wrong things. And again, this one kind of took me by surprise too. And I was thinking, well, would really people be that unethical with AI? And then it goes down to a couple of things that have been happening in the last several months is just because it feels wrong, and just because morally and religiously it is wrong, in my opinion, doesn't make it legally wrong. And those are two distinctions. And it's sad, for one, but it's also the state of where we live in, right? So just because something is unethical for me might be completely ethical to somebody else. And we have to come to a common understanding of what ethical use is when it comes to artificial intelligence. So is it okay for me to record somebody's voice, take their voice and their likeness of their voice, put it into an AI generator, and then now from that, I can type in whatever I want to type in and make it say whatever I need it to say in somebody else's voice. And I was watching C-SPAN around Thanksgiving time, and there was a senator who was testifying to Congress about how he got scammed by saying that his son had called him on his phone and said, "Dad, I'm getting arrested. I'm getting a DUI. I'll call you when I get to prison or to the jail. I need you to come get me. Don't worry, the car is fine. Everything else. So the senator was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like it sounded like him, same tone, same inclinations. He was like, "Okay." So he's waiting for the phone call. He got the phone call back. Said, "Hey, I'm at jail, but they said the bond is set to, $6,000, and there's no bond bill. There's no bondsman open. This isn't open. That isn't open. If you just give me $3,000, they said that they'll reduce it to $3,000 if I can just come up with that and I can get out and I can come back at a later time." And he goes, "Well, that's kind of strange. I don't think that's how that works." So he then started thinking, let me contact my son's wife. So he contacted the son's wife. He said, "Hey, so and so just texted me. They said they're in. My son texted me. He said he's in jail. Is the car okay? Are you and the kids okay? I know this must be hard for you." And they said, "What are you talking about? He's sitting right next to me." So then his son actually calls him from his living room and said, "Dad, what are you talking about?" So he started explaining. He goes, "No, that's a scam. That's a hoax." So then he actually, was keeping these people online on the phone. He's calling the police, and there's nothing that the police could do because no crime had actually been committed. Had he sent the money, then he would have gotten scammed out of $3,000 or $6,000 to $3,000. Had he sent the money, then that would have actually been a crime. But since he didn't follow through with it, no crime was actually committed. Therefore, they actually did nothing wrong, which is really weird on how that's how the law works. But it doesn't make it ethical. It doesn't make it right. And that's what I mean by we need to really understand a common principle of ethical use of AI so that people don't fall in these issues. And scammers are getting good. Scammers are getting better at their skill, and especially with the use of AI, becoming more convincible. And so I would just offer up that, people really need to take a good, strong look at that. And then, as we're getting ready to close this out here, continuous learning and skill development is a must. We must continue our skills and continue learning. No matter how old you are, you don't know what you need to know. And the older I get, the more I know that I don't know anything. But I know a lot more than I used to know. If that makes sense. So I know now that I don't know what I need to know. I know I need to know more, but I know a lot more than I used to. And about 15 to 20 years ago, I would tell you I knew everything, and I didn't know nothing. So we are never done learning. And if you're done learning, then you're probably done on this earth. And that's not good. So always, take a new class, read a new book, strive to get a new skill, develop your skills, stay relevant. Just because you know how to, do video editing, or just because you know how to do a programming skill, or just because you know how to do woodwork today, or roofing work, or plumbing work, or say you're a real estate agent and you know how to sell houses, doesn't mean you're increasing your skills and staying relevant for how to do it tomorrow, or a month from now, or 2 months from now, or 3 years from now. You got to stay up on it and increase your skills and your knowledge. And I'm constantly taking classes to do that of myself in order to stay relevant and continue on to move. Because the moment you become irrelevant, you become unuseful. When you become unuseful, no one goes to you anymore. And that's horrible as a leader. You always want people to come to you, especially if you're a leader, because they either think you don't care or you're unuseful. So if you don't come to me, I'd hate it to think that you didn't care, but it's even worse if you think I'm not useful. And then the other one that we're going to hear a lot this year is DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. And I would offer up, there's a poll recently done by Gallup, and on that one, they were talking about affirmative action and the negative impacts that it's had, and the perception of negative impacts that it's had in American society and American culture. And on that, it was overwhelmingly perceived that it had a negative action, a negative impact, because when people surveyed and they talked about it, their responses, they said, well, I feel cheated out of something that I earned because I don't want to feel like somebody gave me a promotion just because I mark a little box on someone's chiclet chart to make them look better. If I get promoted, I want it to be based off my own merit. I want it to be based off of because I earned it. I want it to be based off of because I work hard and I try hard and I'm doing the right thing, and people see that I'm useful to them and that, I have something to bring to the table. I don't want it to be because of a number or a filler. So I would say that we're making great strides in this arena. I would say I do not think, again, this is just my opinion, I do not think that we are as far off or as bad as the media makes it to be. I think for the most part, people get promoted and put in positions and selected for jobs because, they bring something to the table. Regardless of whatever it is that you are as a human being, that you feel like you need to categorize yourself as, if you get hired, it's because you're qualified for the job. Nothing else. And really, nothing else matters. Now, there are instances where people are discriminated against. And in that case, then yes, absolutely, we need to take a look at the wrongful discrimination of people and the negative impacts that it has. But overall, I would say relatively we're doing a great job on that. And you're going to notice a huge decline in a focus on that because people feel like, well, we've already achieved this. We don't really need to talk about it. It'll come up here and there. But throughout this year, it is not going to be a target of topic for development. What is going to be the big topics are what we talked about before. Building trust and maintaining trust in our teams and our organizations, that's going to be number one. And will always remain number one because inherently, unfortunately, we have people who are distrustful, who do things that bring about distrust. And that hurts the organization. So you're going to have to do damage control. You're going to have to do more things to demonstrate your trust and your willingness for people. Then we're going to have to become more human connected and more human-centric in our leadership. Understand that, we have lives, we have ups, we have downs, we have families, we've got kids, we've got external circumstances that may try to pull us away from our duties and our jobs. But know that if you give me the ability to remote or telework or have some type of hybrid schedule, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I meet my goals and my objectives for the organization and not let anything fail because you're taking care of me in return, right? And again, we got to keep a close eye on the navigating the economy this year. It's going to be up and down. And then we need to take a look at our geopolitical challenges and take a look about what's going on globally around us and seeing how that impacts our own careers and our own environment and our own sectors, so that way we can communicate to people effectively what we could be seeing. Then we already talked a lot about AI and digital literacy and the use for that. So all in all, that's what I see for this year. Those are the things that I see that are going to be popping up as trends in your organizations as we move forward for this year. But before we go and close this out, if you're listening online and if you have a question about anything that we talked about or anything at all, please go ahead and enter in the chat box anything that you have to say. I'd really like to hear from you and hear from you. I would like to do 2 quick plugs. One, the next couple episodes that are going to be dropping, they're going to be dropping on all the podcast platforms that you may be subscribed to, and then also on YouTube. It'll be on here as well in the podcast section of Tim Stating the Obvious. We're going to be having a series from a leadership coach, Russell Heath. He's a great guy, good friend, and we're going to be talking about a series of why you need a leadership coach. And this goes back to continuous lifelong learning, which I think is very important for everybody. And so we're going to talk about that. And then once we get through those 4 episodes, we're going to also be talking about leadership. And as you get more senior in your leadership, how your friends start to dwindle, how your circle starts to get smaller, and still how important it is to stay connected and to stay connected to your friends, either your friends and your family, and maintain that mental health, and also maintain your grit, your stick-to-itiveness, and be true to yourself. So those are the things that we're going to be focusing on the next couple episodes. So I really hope that you enjoyed this live. I get enjoyment out of talking to you. So I really look forward to doing this. And I got to do a better job of getting this to start on time. I don't know why I had so many technical issues tonight, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and it will be all right. So one thing that I do want to end with is, before I play the outro music, is if you have any questions regarding those episodes coming forward for Russell, if you have a question, he would love to answer it. So this would be a great venue to go on there and say, hey, comment on the video, comment on that podcast episode, or go to my website, timstatingtheobvious.com, and leave me an email or a message. Call my phone, leave me a message, and then we will also play that for Russell. So, again, thank you for stopping by. I'm Tim Staten, stating the obvious.
Watch it how I clean up. Watch me how I clean up, ain't nobody real, I ain't into feelings. Tell them but just ease up. Just came out the arena, now I put my feet up, girl, I'm moving eager. Still I let go. I won't make a movie, but I'll make an episode. Flex a little something on them just to let them know. I swear I do the telling, so there ain't no getting told. When I hear the money calling, just know I'm involved. Stop it. Money can't fit in my pocket. Taking a flight just for shopping. Touch some East and the runs and I copped it, yeah. Profit, can't get enough and I love it. Split it back now I get with my brothers. Pay the bills and the rest of my mama, yeah. Getting paid, check the views. 48 floor living, check the views. Never taking L's, never lose. That statistically show I got W. I was on my face, so I had to make it happen. Money wasn't coming in, I had to go and pattern. Rolling on my wrist and I got that shit from Madden. So you can imagine. Watch it how I clean up. Watch me how I clean up, ain't nobody real, I ain't into feelings. Tell them but just ease up. Just came out the arena, now I put my feet up, girl, I'm moving eager. Still I let go. I won't make a movie, but I'll make an episode. Flex a little something on them just to let them know. I swear I do the telling, so there ain't no getting told. When I hear the money calling, just know I'm involved. I'll get involved. I'll get involved. I'll get involved. I'll get involved. Yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, man, that's my saying. Don't pick up the phone unless my agent says